And this last section is about organic compounds. Organic compounds are compounds that come from living things, and inorganic compounds come from things that were not alive. So in chemistry, organic means a different thing than what it does at the grocery store. Because to a chemist, an organic apple, well, of course, all apples are organic, right? They're composed of organic compounds. Yeah, we think about the world a little differently. That's history. You can read about that. So this is just like touching the iceberg, tip of the iceberg. There's a whole 2 semesters of organic chemistry, and that's only the beginning. What you need to know now is organic compounds are going to have carbon and hydrogen in them, and sometimes a little bit of other elements. Common ones are oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, and sulfur, but the key element is carbon. Carbon is kind of unique in that it often makes bonds with other carbon atoms, and so you can end up with long chains of carbon atoms. And then they're going to have covalent bonds in between them, and then you can have hydrogen filling up the rest, because carbon's always going to have 4 covalent bonds. It could be 4 single bonds, a double and 3 triples. Yeah, it's late. A double and 3 singles. I'm going to stop there. These are examples of different organic compounds, and you see they've all got carbon in them, right? And then the rest of it is made up of hydrogen, and then sometimes, like this one, has some oxygen in it. So we could take all compounds, and we could say there's inorganic compounds and there's organic compounds. We are almost exclusively going to be concerned with inorganic compounds, but there are a few organic compounds that come in. We can divide organic compounds into hydrocarbons, which just have hydrogen and carbon, hydrocarbon, or functionalized hydrocarbons, which are fancy. Hydrocarbons burn very nicely. They contain a lot of energy, so they're good as fuel. Oil, gasoline, propane, natural gas, those are all hydrocarbons. Within the hydrocarbons, we can look at what kinds of bonds do they have. If they only have single bonds, they're called alkanes. So there's this suffix here, ane. If you have double bonds, at least one, it's going to be an alkene, and a triple bond is going to be an alkyne. And all of these hydrocarbon names consist of a base name, which is related to the number of carbon atoms, and the suffix. And so the suffix is going to tell us what kind of bonds are in there. Ane, ene, or ine. The base name depends on the number of carbons. So if we just skip to 5, pent, hex, hept, oct, non, dec, those should be familiar, right? The hydrate prefixes, the molecular compound prefixes, and what is up with those. Yeah. Those have historical background. So meth, eth, prop, bute. Mom eats pickled bananas, which means you're getting a new sibling soon. Because who would like pickled bananas except a pregnant woman? Mom eats pickled bananas. That's not in your textbook. I say this to myself when I need to know how many carbons does propane have. Mom eats 3. It's got 3 carbons. So meth is 1, eth is 2, prop is 3, and bute is 4. And then you can put these different suffixes with them. So here, methane. Meth means there's 1 carbon. So there's 1 carbon, and then the 4 bonds that carbon needs to have will be made up of hydrogens. Here's propane. Propane means 3 carbons. So we've got 3 carbons here, and then they're going to be single bonds because it's ane, and then surrounded by hydrogens. Here we've got ethene. So the eth prefix means 2 carbons. So here we have 2 carbons, but the ene suffix means there's a double bond. So there's going to be a double bond between the carbons. There's fewer hydrogens now because this carbon has 2 bonds in the double bond and just needs 2 hydrogens to make up the difference. Ethyne is going to have a triple bond. Functional groups are things that make it a little bit different. You could consider double and triple bonds to be a functional group, but the compounds containing the same functional group are going to belong to a family. So methanol and isopropanol are members of the alcohol family. They both have the alcohol OH functional group on them. So they're different because this one has 1 carbon and this one has 3 carbons. But they're in the same family, they will undergo similar reactions. These are different families of organic compounds. I'd like you to be able to recognize the alcohols, the carboxylic acids, and the amines. So the amine has nitrogen in it. Like ammonia has nitrogen, amines have nitrogen. The carboxylic acids are going to have this OH group, and that hydrogen is actually acidic. And so this is the formula for acetic acid. So acetic acid is an organic compound. And then the alcohols are going to have an OH group. So you can say, well, why isn't this an alcohol? Well, because it has the OH, but it also has the double bond with the oxygen. So what should you be able to do? Something like this. Draw the structural formula for nonane. Well, non means how many carbons? 9 carbons. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's the kind of math you do in OChem. It's a lot of counting. This suffix ane tells me what about the bonds? They're all single bonds. So the other thing that's in here is hydrogen. Each of these carbons needs to have 4 bonds. Some of them have 2 bonds now with carbons and some have 1. But if you just go top and bottom, right and left, then they'll each have 4. And the things you fill in there are hydrogens. And so that's just a heck of a lot of little H's to draw, which is why they've made shortcut ways of drawing organic compounds, but we're not going to talk about them. If I gave you this structure on an exam and gave you multiple choice, you should be able to pick out nonane, because there's 9 carbons and they're all single bonds. I'll only ask you to draw structures or name things for hydrocarbons. And just like once on the exam. And then what family does this belong to? This is a carboxylic acid because of this group. So that's a carboxylic acid group. Now you could get a very strong A without knowing that. It's in the course outline of record. There, I taught it to you. Good.